Woezor TV Report, let's take a look at the headlines. Now let's begin. President John Dramani Mahama has called for deeper collaboration between government and the private sector to accelerate Ghana's economic transformation. Speaking at the 10th Ghana CEO Summit in Accra, the president emphasized the need for regulatory reforms, industrial growth, and increased productivity through the government's 24-hour economy agenda.
The exporter and the retailer into a single productive ecosystem. When this chain functions effectively, sectors such as cocoa, cashew, shea, oil palm, rice, poultry, textiles, pharmaceuticals, and light manufacturing move beyond just policy aspirations. They become sources of jobs, incomes, exports, and stronger local economies. And so we must move beyond just exporting raw materials and paying higher prices for finished imports. We have the people, we have the enterprise, and we certainly have the opportunity to retain more value within our economy. Distinguished CEOs, this is also where the 24-hour economy initiative is particularly relevant. The concept is not simply about asking people to work at night, it is about utilizing our productive capacities more efficiently. Where a business has demand, raw materials, labor, energy, and market opportunities, outdated systems for organizing work should not prevent it from producing more. For some firms, this may mean additional shifts. For others, it may require improved logistics. For others, extended public service, stronger security, improved transport systems, or digital support infrastructure. And so our clear objective is to help businesses grow, create quality jobs, and maximize our resources. And so the government will continue to provide policy direction, but CEOs and industry leaders will determine the success of this agenda.
Still on the president, he has assured the Bono East Regional House of Chiefs that the region will benefit from equitable distribution of natural resources as government rolls out key development projects across the country. This was during a meeting with the Bono East Regional House of Chiefs at the banquet hall in Accra, where the president outlined key economic gains and major ongoing development projects targeted at the region.
From that, and yes, agree Juman Kwang, we share a dreadie and at the Tonga, Bono East, the headquarters of commerce and trade in Ghana. If we say, Yena, Yenim said to Chimanja, and the Edra, a trace, a Sunchain, a Drebia or Ghana, and Krofofi, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Miami Chrome Bolen. Techimedre dia ubehun sani lodu trucks eko na omukodi wia ubehun no masa lodu eba enti a commercial center of Ghana in addition to being a food producing center of Ghana enti region the etisano se koba se ye chadia enye se akoye makontamu region nkwangon but we share a Juma Bono East nature says yeah child there we cannot bypass Bono East. Nti na nanu me shamobo se bibia ye beche bia mo chefa e wo se mo saka no nyame adom mo sabeka. Nti se akwan yo se hospitals so se schools so bibia e wo se eba mo nsem bia mo sabeka.
President Mahama further announced that Techiman has been selected as one of the beneficiaries of government's flagship 24-hour economy initiative.
Na sikano dodo na omo edi no akra ha enti sika ekọ districts no nesa yanka se sika ni na 100% sika na ekọ districts no ye be 40% pe na eno ekọ a omo yi aketua ne sa ne omo ni fimu na eche se empunto sika bia ni hobiom enti e baaye no policy a de baaye Ahmed Ibrahim ne na so for implemented some rano. I can say 80% of common fund no I was say a district. No man can say and train on person with this can here. And if we say yes sir emrano sikano do dona eco district chief executives no ho. And na who say chiefs compounds no mu see schools almost see 24-hour markets. Districts via a 24-hour market.
Now, the government of Ghana has welcomed what it describes as a historic statement by His Holiness Pope Leo XIV, acknowledging and apologizing for the role played by the Holy See in legitimizing and sustaining the transatlantic slave trade and enslavement of Africans. In a statement issued by the presidency, government described the Pope's remarks as an act of moral courage and significant contribution to the global pursuit of historical truth, justice, and human dignity. Government noted that the apology comes at a critical time when the international community is reflecting more on the enduring consequences of slavery and colonialism. President Mahama says the acknowledgement reinforces the growing global understanding that confronting historical injustices requires truth-telling, accountability, and moral responsibility. And away from that, Finance Minister Dr. Kaysol Atuforsen says Africa stands at a defining moment to reposition itself in the global economy through industrialization and digital transformation. He made the remarks in a keynote address at the Ishmael Yomson and Associate Business Roundtable 2026 held in Accra.
Africa still stands at a defining historical crossroads. For centuries, we supplied the world with raw materials, labor, and strategic resources. However, we captured only a fraction of the value created from these resources. Today, the pattern risks repeating itself. In fact, we risk repeating itself in a new form. Our raw materials still live. Increasingly, our data also lives. The tragedy of Africa's economic history, therefore, is not the absence of resources. It has been the persistent export of value and the import dependency. But this history is not our destiny. We must change the narrative. The next quarter of a century presents Africa with perhaps its greatest opportunity since political independence. The defining question before this generation for the next quarter of a century is this: will Africa finally become a production and value addition force within the world economy?
Now, the conference brought together leading voices from government and the private sector to discuss Africa's economic direction over the next 25 years. Opening the event, convener Ishmael Yomson Jr. stressed that Africa could no longer depend on narratives of untapped potential without deliberate action and execution. According to him, the continent must prioritize African-led enterprises, build stronger supply chains, and develop economic systems that retain value within Africa.
It's true. Potential without aggressive structured execution is systemic failure. We command 30% of the world's resources, yet we account for a mere 3% of global trade. That is not potential. That is an indictment of our operational strategy. Under President Mahama's leadership, a historic resolution was recently secured, formally recognizing the transatlantic slave trade as the worst crime against humanity and acknowledging the darkest chapter of our history, in which the violent extraction of our human capital built the economic foundations of the global north. But as we sit in this room, well, I'm standing, but for the rest of you, we must recognize that while the extraction of our people has ended, the extraction of our wealth never stopped, it merely evolved. The era of defensive reactive corporate operator, who manages a company merely to survive the next quarter, is definitely over. The next 25 years belong entirely to the corporate statesman, the leader who ensures our future is defined not by what is extracted from us, but by what we retain. To achieve this, we must shift the macroeconomic illusions that have governed our boardrooms for a century.
Now, the Architects Registration Council has begun a compliance and monitoring inspection exercise at selected project sites in Accra. The exercise is aimed at ensuring that only qualified and registered architects operate within the construction industry. Officials say the move is also to help address official concerns over unsafe buildings and poor construction practices. That's more in this report.
Council ARC has intensified efforts to enforce professionalism within Ghana's construction industry through a compliance and monitoring inspection exercise at selected project sites in Accra. The exercise is aimed at ensuring that only qualified and registered architects undertake architectural works in accordance with the Architects Act 1969. Acting Registrar of the Architects Registration Council, Josephine Pesase, says the inspection have become necessary due to the increasing rate of urban development and concerns over unqualified persons operating within the sector. She explained that the council is working to prevent the activities of unregistered practitioners whose work may contribute to structural failures and building collapses, while seeking to educate the public on the importance of engaging certified professionals for construction projects.
There's this law that says that only architects, professional architects, can do work within the architectural space. And so clients should also know that they should not only be looking for designers, but they should look for professional architects.
Madam Professor further indicated that the inspections will be intensified, especially during the rainy season, when concerns over flooding and unsafe buildings remain high.
And so, with regards to this flooding, it has a lot to do with zoning and then planning purposes. But there's a lot that the architect also puts in there, because before you even go into design, you must ensure that the site is zoned for this and that. And by our system in Ghana, there's no way a planning scheme will allow that buildings should be put in the path of rivers or stormwater and so on and so forth. So we ensuring that the professional architect does the right thing in a way helps in protecting the public.
Chairman of the ARC Compliance Monitoring Committee, Samuel Quartey, also assured that the council will continue to enforce regulations to sanitize the architectural industry.
There are all kinds of collaborations we are doing with the assemblies, with even the legal, like the police and the like, so that subsequently, if we have to shut down any site, we'll do so. But these are exercises in progress. We just want to make sure that we are sanitizing the practice of architecture, that there's the right compliance to what our regulations and things are. And if there are any practitioners in the town who are not duly registered, we want to ensure that they get their registrations properly done or proper license before they practice in our shores.
Now, government says some public institutions have been disconnected from the national grid over unpaid electricity bills as part of efforts to improve financial discipline in the energy sector. The Deputy Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Richard Jan Mensah, made a disclosure at the launch of the Public Facility Sustainable Energy Action Plan in Accra. There's more in this report.
Green Transition, together with the Energy Commission and development partners, has launched the Public Facility Sustainable Energy Action Plan, PFCAP, to promote energy efficiency and renewable energy adoption across public institutions in Ghana. The initiative is expected to help reduce electricity consumption, cut operational costs, and address the growing issue of utility payment arrears within ministries, departments, and agencies. Launching the program, Deputy Minister for Energy and Green Transition, Richard Jan Mensah, said government has introduced measures to improve discipline and sustainability within the energy sector. He noted that public institutions remain among the largest electricity consumers in the country, making efficient energy management critical to the stability of the sector.
The government has taken difficult but necessary decisions to ensure discipline, accountability, and sustainability in electricity consumption and bills payments. As part of these reforms, some public offices that fail to meet their payment obligation have been disconnected from the electricity supply.
Executive Secretary of the Energy Commission, Adrasa Bonte, said the initiative goes beyond energy conservation and forms part of a broader national agenda to improve efficiency, sustainability, and economic growth.
Our public institutions remain among the largest consumers of electricity in the country. Yet every unnecessary kilowatt consumed, every inefficient system maintained, and every avoidable cost incurred represents resources that could have otherwise supported healthcare, education, infrastructure, and broader national development priorities. This is why the PFSCR program is simply not an energy initiative. It is an economic initiative. It is a fiscal responsibility initiative. It is an environmental initiative. And ultimately, it is a national transformation initiative.
Board Chairman of the Energy Commission, Professor John Gache, emphasized the importance of collaboration among stakeholders to ensure the successful implementation of the program.
Beyond energy savings, the action plan presents enormous opportunities for green, job creation, technical skills development, and private sector participation within Ghana's renewable energy and energy efficiency value chain.
Stakeholders believe the successful implementation of the PFCAP will strengthen Ghana's energy security and support the country's transition toward a cleaner and more sustainable energy future. For Woezor TV, Richard Asamoah.
For some international news. Now, a fire in a girls' dormitory in Kenya on Thursday killed 16 children and hospitalized 79 in the latest deadly blaze to hit a school in the Eastern African country. The fire broke out shortly before 1 a.m. local time at the Utumishi Girls Academy in Nakauru County, around 120 kilometers north of the capital, Nairobi. There have been many devastating school fires in Kenya, where boarding schools are common as a colonial legacy of missionaries and the British. The affected dormitory had shattered windows, blackened walls, and a crumpled corrugated iron roof. Now this brings us to the end of the Woezor TV Reports. Many thanks for staying with us. I am Karen, now Quartey.